All right, let's dive into this stack of sources we've got here. Today, we're pulling out key insights about a very specific system aimed squarely at, well, small business owners. The promise: getting more done faster, but working smarter, not harder.
That's right. And this material, it offers a pretty rapid introduction to a routine. Think of it as best practices from efficiency experts, but carefully repackaged, tailored for the unique challenges and, the realities that smaller businesses face every day.
And our mission here is to give you that shortcut, really.
Yeah.
To get you well informed about this particular approach without having to sift through everything yourself. Because we know you, the small business owner listening, you're incredibly busy.
Yeah, exactly.
And the traditional world of long-term, rigid 5-year plans, it just doesn't often fit, does it? Things move too fast.
Way too fast. And that's the fundamental problem the source tackles head on. I mean, for many small business owners, knowing exactly where the business will be in even, say, 3 to 6 months feels like a stretch.
Right.
So sitting down to map out a formal 5-year plan, it can honestly feel like pure fantasy. Guesswork, you probably won't hit anyway. It's just demotivating.
Yeah, it feels disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
So the alternative proposed here is an experience-based planning process. It's designed to be much more flexible, adapting to the dynamic nature of running a small business.
And it all starts with what the source calls a crucial first step. The core idea is that your business, it should ultimately serve you, the owner. It should deliver what you desire. But that's incredibly difficult, almost impossible, if you don't have a really clear picture of what success means to you.
That's interesting. So without defining success first, you risk just constantly reacting, chasing the next bright, shiny object without a real target.
Exactly. You won't have a clear finish line. You might achieve something, sure, but you wouldn't necessarily know it was success, or if you did get there, it might feel purely accidental,
It's like deciding to take a trip with your family, but refusing to say where you're going. Everyone's in the car, you're driving, but nobody knows how to pack, what to prepare for. Or even if you're going in the right direction for their idea of a good trip, you're leaving your team and yourself completely in the dark.
That's a perfect analogy, a really good one. So step 1, define success. And the source suggests picturing what success looks like specifically in 3 years' time.
Okay, 3 years. Why 3? Why not 5 or maybe 1?
Yeah, good question. And that's where the first real insight comes in. Your definition of success will change as your business grows. It just does. The source points out typical stages. The solopreneur just trying to survive.
Been there.
Right. Then the micro business, maybe aiming to afford its first staff. Then small business learning, hands-off management, maybe moving towards a lifestyle or investor stage where you're stepping back, or even the exit stage focused on selling.
Okay, so lots of potential shifts.
Exactly. And a 5-year plan is often too long because you might hit one of those transitions halfway through, and suddenly your priorities are completely different. But 1 year usually isn't enough time for truly significant structural improvement work.
Right, you're still putting out fires sometimes.
Exactly. So 3 years, the source suggests, kind of hits a sweet spot.
It's achievable enough to feel real, but far enough out to allow for meaningful growth and change?
Yes. It gives you time to make significant moves, but it's close enough that you can actually visualize it. The source calls this your 3-year destination.
Your North Star.
That's the term. Yeah, your North Star. That destination becomes your constant reference point. Every significant decision you face needs to pass the test. Is this the best way to get me closer to my 3-year destination?
Okay.
This is the core mechanism for avoiding the distractions, the multitasking pitfalls. Keeps your focus where it matters most.
How does having that destination specifically help a busy owner cut through the daily chaos?
Well, it acts as a filter. Simple as that. When a new opportunity pops up or a challenge, and they always do, you immediately have a way to evaluate its importance, but relative to your long-term goal.
So is this shiny object actually on the path, or is it a detour?
Precisely. Is it moving you forward or sideways or even backward? It gives you permission to say no to things that aren't actually helping you get where you want to go.
That makes a lot of sense. Permission to say no is powerful. And the source includes a prompt here, doesn't it? To pause and reflect.
Yeah.
They suggest right now maybe jotting down initial thoughts on what that 3-year success looks like.
Yeah, they do. Thinking about the desired rewards, salary, profit, benefits, maybe those fun toys, better equipment or even a nice car. But also, alongside that, your acceptable workload and acceptable stress levels. Those are key too.
You write it down.
Absolutely. They really emphasize writing this down and keeping it visible. Refer to it often. It's not set in stone. You can review and refine it, maybe quarterly, as you learn more through the process we're about to get into.
Okay, so you have this vital 3-year vision. That's the destination. But focusing on something that far out day to day, that's incredibly difficult. The source uses a simple but powerful analogy here. Building a wall.
Right. Your 3-year destination is the completed wall, solid, impressive, doing its job. But you don't just wish a wall into existence, do you? You need to build the foundation, lay it brick by brick, stone by stone, and eventually add the capping. Your business journey is built the same way.
Right. You can't stay focused directly on the completed wall that's 3 years away. It's too long a time frame for a consistent daily motivation. You need shorter-term mini plans to break it down and provide more frequent senses of achievement, I guess.
That's exactly it. You need those regular wins, and the source strongly recommends these mini plans align with each financial quarter.
Quarterly plans.
And there's a key insight here. Why a quarter? It hits that sweet spot again. A quarter is long enough to realistically fit in meaningful improvement work while still running the business day-to-day, which is crucial.
Makes sense. And it fits with accounting cycles.
Yeah, it naturally aligns with your accounting cycle, makes it easy to measure financial results, see if you're on track, course correct if needed, and importantly, it means you can target 4 significant, focused improvements to your business every single year.
4 significant improvements a year, consistently applied. That would absolutely move you towards that 3-year destination faster than just reacting. And these quarterly mini plans are called GamePlans in the source.
Yes, drawing on that dictionary definition, a plan for winning competition or achieving goal. The material describes these 12Faces game plans as a custom-built planning strategy for small business owners, centered around creating sustainable business success.
Okay, how does it build a repeatable routine? Because routine seems key.
It is key. It does this by giving you a clear structure to follow each quarter, using principles similar to those that made companies like, say, Toyota so effective at continuous improvement. The core elements are deciding on the one most important thing to improve in that next financial quarter.
Just one.
Well, one main focus. We'll get into the details. Then orchestrating short sprints, bursts of focused work to achieve that improvement. And a critical piece, if you hit a roadblock or the market shifts or a new priority emerges, you can pivot.
Pivot, okay.
Yeah, you can switch focus to something else with minimal lost time because you haven't overplanned weeks and months ahead in minute detail.
Right, you're not locked into a rigid path for 90 days. So the core unit of action becomes the quarterly game plan. A 3-month period focused on achieving a specific, measurable micro goal.
Precisely. That's the heart of it. And the source emphasizes that reliable progress towards that goal doesn't happen by chance. It really doesn't. It comes from establishing and following a routine. They introduce the concept of a ratchet cycle.
Like a gear that only moves forward. Click, click, click.
Exactly. That's the idea. It's a process designed to always move forward and, crucially, be prevented from sliding backward. The aim is sustainable business success, building momentum and progress towards your destination consistently, without overdoing it and risking burnout or, backsliding.
Okay, that makes sense. And the standardized, battle-tested approach for executing these game plans reliably is the Plan, Do, Check, Adapt cycle. PDCA.
PDCA. Yeah, this is absolutely key. It ensures that actions within the game plan are carefully thought out in advance, and the results are measured, evaluated, and then cemented into how you operate.
Walk us through those steps again, but specifically in the context of a game plan.
Sure. First, the plan phase. This is where you decide precisely what needs to be done, who's responsible for what. And a crucial part here, often overlooked, is thinking through potential implementation problems before you start.
Preparing for bumps in the road. Anticipating issues.
Yes. Don't just assume smooth sailing. Then comes do. This is the action phase, the actual execution of the tasks you planned.
Straightforward enough. Get it done.
Then check. This is where you measure the actual outcomes against what you expected or planned. Did you achieve the result you aimed for? How did the process go? What worked, what didn't?
Looking back honestly.
Very honestly.
Great.
And finally, adapt.
The critical phase, you said.
Yeah. Absolutely critical. This is where you consider everything you learned during that sprint or the whole game plan. You decide what to do next based on those outcomes, And crucially, you update your normal work practices, your standard operating procedures, your SOPs for any successful new methods you discovered.
So you're cementing the positive change, making it the new normal.
Exactly. This is the ratcheting part we talked about. It moves you forward based on your learning and prevents backsliding by making the new, better way the standard way. The source is very clear. Failing to update the SOPs means you haven't actually captured the benefit of the sprint's outcome. You just haven't locked it in.
So the PDCA cycle, in essence, is the engine for learning to work smarter, not harder.
That's a great way to put it. It's the learning engine.
Okay, so diving deeper into the planning phase of a quarterly game plan, how do you structure that?
Well, you design it to run over one financial quarter. This is strategic because it allows you to compare your results with previous quarters pretty easily. Are you progressing towards your 3-year destination? Are you seeing the financial impacts you expected? It gives you real data for course correction.
And the goals need to be specific. You mentioned that.
Oh, absolutely. You must decide what specifically you want to achieve and how you will measure success. Saying, reduce overhead costs by 10% provides a clear target, a measurable outcome. Unlike just saying reduce costs, which is just too vague. You can't really plan for it or test it effectively.
And the source suggests starting simple. Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Yes, definitely, especially when you're new to this process. Aim for just one main game plan per quarter. Avoid getting overwhelmed or falling back into multitasking. It's much better to successfully complete one focused improvement than juggle 5 and finish none of them.
That makes sense. Quality over quantity.
And it's vital to write that game plan down and share it, particularly with your team if they're involved, so everyone is aligned on the main improvement focus for the quarter. Clarity is key.
Now, every business owner has that never-ending list, right?
Yeah.
Things they could work on. The source encourages creating a list of candidate game plans. What's that about?
Right. That's where you jot down all those potential improvement projects or problems you want to tackle eventually. It's a living list. You add to it whenever an idea strikes or a new pain point emerges.
What makes something a good candidate for a game plan?
Well, fundamentally, it needs to be something with an achievable outcome within a single quarter. Using the time and resources you realistically have available alongside running the business day to day, that's the constraint.
Yeah.
The source advises it's better to choose something slightly smaller and finish it early than pick something too big and fail to complete it. Builds momentum.
They mention examples like figuring out the steps to hire your first staff member.
Yep.
Or maybe repositioning a failing product or service.
Common one.
Optimizing an inefficient operation or building out a sales funnel. Real stuff.
Exactly. Real-world business challenges. Tangible things. And from this list of candidates, you need a method to pick the most important one for the next quarter. The source suggests starting by addressing your greatest pain first.
The biggest headache.
Yeah. What's the biggest problem holding you back right now? Your gut is often right about this.
So tackle the bottleneck, the thing that's slowing everything else down.
Often, yes. They call it the constraint. The one big mission-critical thing that's preventing you from moving faster towards your 3-year destination. That's usually the top priority for your game plan.
Okay, so the constraint is priority 1. What else goes into the quarterly plan? Just that?
No, not usually just that. Beyond the constraint, you'll typically include tasks for incremental improvement. This is your Kaizen work, continuous small improvements on products, systems, processes. You prioritize these, and if you don't finish them all in one quarter, they can roll over to the next candidate list.
Okay, so big rock first, then smaller improvements.
Exactly. And third, preventative maintenance. These are important recurring tasks that prevent future problems. Things like customer retention activities or completing your accounting cycles on time, stuff you have to do anyway, but plan it in.
Got it. Constraint, improvement, maintenance, and they mention prefab game plans. What are those?
Ah, right. Think of them as time-saving starting points or templates. Since many common business priorities are similar across different types of businesses, like improving cash flow or building a marketing plan, these provide a ready-made framework. They help you structure your plan quickly, and crucially, they can alert you to potential issues or steps you might have otherwise overlooked. You know, the classic you don't know what you don't know problem.
That sounds really helpful, actually. Avoid reinventing the wheel. And another pause and reflect here, prompting you, the listener, to think about your own business. What are some potential candidate game plans on your list right now? And based on what we just discussed, pain points, constraints, how would you start to prioritize them? Maybe identify your current biggest pain.
It's a great way to immediately apply the concepts. Make it real. Okay, so moving into the doing phase of the PDCA cycle now, the D. This is simply carrying out the tasks needed to achieve your quarterly game plan goal.
But as you said earlier, 90 days is still a long time to map out every single task in minute detail. Things change. Task plan today might not make sense in, what, 2 months?
That's precisely why the source introduces sprints. It addresses that exact problem. Instead of a rigid 90-day task list, you break the work down into much shorter periods, typically 1-2 weeks. At the start of each sprint, you simply decide, what's the most important next step I can take in the next week or two? Just focus on that.
Okay, so this adds a lot of flexibility, agility.
Crucial flexibility. At the end of that 1-2 week sprint, you review, and then you decide the next task for the next sprint. You might continue on the current path if things are going well, or if something more urgent or important has popped up, a new opportunity, a fire to put out, you can quickly pivot your focus for the next sprint. And you haven't wasted time planning a bunch of tasks for later in the quarter that are now irrelevant.
Right, minimizing wasted planning effort. The sprint duration itself can be flexible, I assume,
Yeah.
based on how much time you can dedicate.
Exactly. It needs to fit your reality, your available bandwidth that week or two. And the source notes that sprints also benefit from their own simpler PDCA cycle.
Even in just 1-2 weeks, seems quick.
Yeah, it's faster, lighter. You still plan that sprint-specific tasks, do the work, check your progress and outcomes quickly, and adapt based on what you learn to decide the next sprint's focus. The pause and reflect here encourages you to outline a simple PDCA cycle for a potential single sprint you might tackle soon. They even suggest using mind maps as a useful tool for laying out these sprint ideas visually.
Okay, so you have the quarterly game plan goal, you're working in sprints. Makes sense. But how do you figure out the specific tasks to do within each sprint? Especially if you're tackling a pain point you haven't dealt with before. Where do the actual how-to ideas come from?
Good question. The source provides what-to-do resources to help with this. A primary one is something called the Issue Diagnosis and Treatment System.
Okay, like a diagnostic tool for your business problems. A doctor for your business.
Precisely. That's a good way to think about it. If you have symptoms like dropping profit, or staff morale is low, or leads have dried up but you're not sure of the root cause, the diagnosis part helps you systematically identify potential underlying problems. Then the treatment part suggests proven approaches or solutions to address that specific cause.
So it helps you avoid just guessing and, barking up the wrong tree, wasting sprint time.
Yes, exactly. And it provides a reality check on potential solutions you might be considering. For example, if your goal is to increase income, the sources system doesn't just say, make more sales. That's too simple. It lists 5 distinct approaches the source covers: increasing the number of sales, increasing prices, introducing different or higher margin product services, acquiring other businesses, or adding new marketing channels like e-commerce.
Okay. Options.
And the diagnosis system helps you figure out which of those is the right treatment based on your specific symptoms and your business context.
That moves you from a vague goal like increase income to concrete actions much more quickly. There's another pause and reflect to test drive this system, maybe with a real-world problem you're facing right now. See how it works.
Yeah, try it out. And the source also mentions they have a library of articles on specific business topics, categorized and searchable as another what-to-do resource to help inform your sprint tasks.
Okay. Moving on to the cheat sheet phase.
Yeah.
The C in PDCA. What's the goal there?
Well, the purpose is simple but vital: to see what actually worked, what didn't, and accurately measure your progress towards the game plan goal and, ultimately, your 3-year destination. Are you actually moving the needle?
I imagine the specific metrics and tools depend heavily on your business and industry. Right?
Oh, absolutely. What works for a retailer is different from a service business, but the source highlights the use of dashboard tools to centralize key data so you can easily see what's happening at a glance. They also specifically mention tools like Trendboard. Conceptually, anyway.
Trendboard. What's the idea?
The idea is using your historical financial and sales data to give you early warnings of unfavorable trends before they become obvious, big problems that are harder to fix.
So you can be proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly. An insight from seeing a trend dip in the data could immediately become the focus of your next sprint, or even feed into planning the next quarter's game plan to rectify the issue while it's still relatively small and manageable. They also describe tools like Changeboard, conceptually again, which use historical data for predictive what-if questions. Like, if we increase prices by 5%, what's the likely impact on profit based on past elasticity? Or how much more revenue do we really need to afford that new staff member, considering all associated costs?
That helps you prioritize sprints and estimate potential outcomes before you commit resources.
Exactly. It adds data, removes some of the guesswork from your decision-making within the sprints and game plans. Which brings us to the final phase of PDCA, adapting the A.
You mentioned this is critical for cementing progress earlier, locking it in.
It is. It concludes each sprint and the overall game plan. And it has two key meanings, really. First, it's the reflection. What did you learn from that sprint or quarter? What do those outcomes tell you about the business, the plan, or even your 3-year destination? Maybe the destination needs tweaking. This is how you regularly adapt your strategy to unfolding events and new information. Learning as you go.
Okay, learning and adjusting course. And the second meaning?
The second meaning is about consolidating the progress you made, making it stick. If you tried a new approach in a sprint, maybe a new sales script, a more efficient way to fulfill orders, and it worked, you immediately update your standard operating procedures, your SOPs, to make that new, successful method the standard way of working going forward.
And that is the ratcheting forward you talked about, that click, click.
Yes, that's the mechanism. By updating the SOP, you capture the learning and the efficiency gain permanently. You're literally embedding the improvement into how the business runs day to day. The source is blunt. If you don't update the SOPs, you haven't truly benefited from the sprint's successful outcome. You're likely to just revert to the old, less effective way of doing things under pressure.
So the learning gets lost.
Exactly. This reflection and SOP update process happens regularly after each sprint, even briefly, and more formally in the last couple of weeks of the quarter as you review the overall game plan's outcomes and start planning the next one.
All of this sounds powerful, definitely.
Yeah.
But also, it requires discipline, real discipline.
It absolutely does, and that's where the power of routine comes in. It has to become automatic.
Like brushing your teeth. You don't debate it, you just do it.
Exactly. Those things happen not because you have to constantly find motivation, but because they are habits, routines. Game planning, sprints, the PDCA cycle, they need to become habits too, built into your week, your month, your quarter, or other urgent tasks will always push them aside. The urgent crowds out the important.
So the source suggests actually scheduling specific, recurring times for these steps.
Strongly suggests it. Block out time in your calendar. Like schedule time to set up the next game plan. Start that process in the last 2 weeks of the current quarter. Review your candidate list. Update it with what you learned. Choose the single most important game plan for the next 3 months. Make it an appointment.
And for the sprints?
Same idea. Make it a routine to review your sprint tasks weekly. Maybe first thing Monday morning is your sprint planning time. Prioritize what you'll focus on for the next week or two. Work through it. And then allocate time at the end of the week, maybe Friday afternoon, to quickly check progress and consider if you need to adapt or pivot for the next sprint.
Make the routines support the process. And they offer a vital reminder here. Remember Darwin. Adapt or die. Kind of dramatic, but memorable.
Yeah, it is memorable. It underscores that game plans aren't rigid dictates carved in stone. They are tools for progress. They're intentionally fluid, designed to be flexible. If your priorities genuinely change mid-quarter, or if your current game plan isn't actually moving you towards your goals, you must adapt it. Or even scrap it and start a new one if necessary.
So blindly following a plan that isn't working is the opposite of working smarter.
Absolutely. Checking the appropriateness of your game plan and sprints needs to be part of that routine review process. Ask, is this still the right thing?
Okay. And finally, the source makes a really passionate case for making game plans a team sport, not just something the owner does alone in a back room.
Oh, absolutely. If you develop your plans in isolation, you miss out on incredibly valuable input. It's just a fact. Your staff, who are on the front lines every day, they see opportunities and bottlenecks you might not. They have insights, and often they really enjoy contributing to the solutions, feeling involved. And then you can celebrate the successes together, which is great for morale.
It's that network effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Involving others increases the brain power, surfaces more potential opportunities and ideas, more connections.
Definitely. And even if you're maybe not comfortable sharing your deeply personal 3-year destination details with all staff, you can still brainstorm game plan candidates and sprint tasks with them, get their input on operational improvements, or brainstorm with outside mentors, advisors, professionals like your accountant. They bring different perspectives.
Leverage the collective intelligence.
Yeah. The source also mentions a mission control tool, maybe a shared document or project board, specifically for coordinating team efforts around game plans and sprints. Keep everyone on the same page, and, critically, tune staff KPIs or OKRs to align with the game plan goals at the start of the quarter and assess performance against those at the end. Staff respond better when they have a clear, personal goal tied to the company's main focus.
Right. Makes it relevant to their day-to-day. Okay, so to wrap this deep dive up then, the source's core message seems to be that this game plan system isn't necessarily inventing everything from scratch. It takes best practices from many leading management experts, but packages them into practical routines. Routines specifically designed for small businesses to achieve sustainable success, hopefully more quickly.
That's a good summary. And remember, those pause and reflect prompts we touched on throughout the power of this system really is in applying it, trying it out. The key benefits we've highlighted are having that more realistic and actionable 3-year destination rather than a maybe overwhelming 5-year plan. Using quarterly game plans to maintain focus on the most important immediate issues. And executing that work via short 1-2 week sprints that provide regular senses of achievement while allowing for those quick pivots when needed. Flexibility.
Ultimately, the process is about adapting a systematic workflow to suit you and your unique business. Genuinely learning to work smarter, not harder. Moving from reactive to proactive.
Yes, it moves you from just constantly reacting to fires to one of intentional, measurable improvement over time, building that wall brick by brick.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on as we finish up. Think about one specific pain point in your business right now, something that causes frustration or holds you back consistently. How might defining a clear, measurable outcome for addressing that pain point, maybe framing it as a potential quarterly game plan, and then mapping out just the very first 1-2 week sprint to begin tackling it? How might doing just that change how you approach your work this coming week? Something to consider.